my junior year, we go to Friona, we win the game, and there was a lot of kind of friendly smack talking back and forth, and so we decided that summer that we would go paint the score on the water tower at Friona. Yeah. Oh yeah, this is small town West Texas stuff right here, Trent.
Welcome back to Beyond the X's and O's, and today's a fascinating conversation with one of the highest profile coaches in all of college football, Lincoln Riley from USC. Little did you know he grew up in a town with one stoplight, Muleshoe, Texas. A town of 5,000, talks about Friday Night Lights, whether you were home or away, the entire city shut down and they're at your home stadium or they traveled to the away stadium. He's a dual sport athlete, actually a multi-sport athlete. Really talks about the value in being a multi-sport athlete, how much he appreciates that, how he's boiled it down as it teaches you how to chase championships, which I thought was beautifully said. He ends up going to Texas Tech as a player, but really Texas Tech launched his coaching career. Becomes a student assistant for Coach Leach, quickly climbs the coaching tree for Coach Leach, and talked about how much responsibility Coach Leach gave him at a young age, probably more than he deserved in his own words. He finally gets a receiver's job, and guess who's in the room that year? Michael Crabtree and Danny Amendola both played 10 plus years in the NFL. They lit up college football. He said that was an incredible opportunity where he got to learn how much great players demand from you as a coach. Obviously, that stint at Texas Tech launched him to get the job at East Carolina, where he becomes an office coordinator for the first time, and talks really specifically how most coordinators think it's really about the glamour of calling plays, but there's so much more to being a coordinator, being at the front of the room, not to the back of the room, structuring the offense, understanding who you are personnel-wise, programming, scheduling, practice habits. It's just so neat to hear from one of the best play callers how really the play calling is just the icing on the cake. It's all the other stuff that goes behind it. Gets an opportunity to go to Oklahoma, where he's with Coach Stoops for 2 years. I talked to him, I asked him, I said, talk to me about Coach Leach, Coach Ruffin at East Carolina, then Coach Stoops, and what you pulled from each one of them. And he goes in depth on the principles he learned from each one of those coaches. Obviously becomes the head coach at Oklahoma and has the opportunity to coach 2 Heisman Trophy winners, Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, what he saw in them, how he built the offenses around them, and the kind of coach they are. And then obviously how he got to USC, how he's enjoying it, what it means to be a Trojan, all the other good stuff that goes with it. So this is a great conversation with Coach Lincoln Riley. I hope you enjoy as much as I did. This episode of Beyond the X's and O's is brought to you by Baya Energy Drink. Well, I'm super pumped today to have USC's head football coach, Lincoln Riley, on the show. Coach, thanks for being here.
You got it, Trent. Appreciate you having me on. Good to see you.
Well, let's start with some fun stuff. Muleshoe, Texas, town of 5,000, Friday Night Lights. What was that like for you?
Awesome. I don't think I could have grown up in a better environment. The small town, as you said, I think we had one stoplight. Everybody, it's a small kind of farming town. Everybody knows everyone. Some great friends, some great memories. And then high school football was amazing. It was kind of like you've seen on some of the movies or TV shows. I mean, literally the town on Friday nights shut down. And if you played at home, everybody was there. If you played on the road, everybody was there. And that's just kind of that was kind of the life. It's was kind of the heartbeat in some ways of the town. And so kind of my initial love from football was kind of seeing the community's investment in it, and so it was the scenery and the stage and all that have changed a little bit, but kind of the love for ball certainly started there.
That's awesome. Did you when did you know you're going to get your first start? What year was that, and what was that first varsity start like for you?
Yeah, sophomore year. Got to do it. I had a pretty serious shoulder injury right before it, and so wasn't sure kind of how all that was going to play out. And yeah, to get kind of that first action and to go from being like that little kid that, you watched all the guys, the older high school guys playing through those years and kind of, dreaming of when you would get your chance and to be able to get your shot and out to go out there and do it was, yeah, it was a great feeling. I mean, it felt like you were playing in front of a million people, and yeah, the emotions, excitement, kind of pride you had in that was one of the big deals there. They did a good job at our program. So my program historically at Millshoe was one of the worst programs in the state of Texas, and our head coach David Wood came in and really transformed it. And over the last, probably 20 years, it's been one of the more successful programs in the state. And they changed a lot. But I remember one cool thing they did. There was two things. One, it was a big deal at the time, but if you made varsity, you got your name on the back of your jersey, which that was pretty uncommon in those days. And then they really invested in a beautiful varsity locker room, and it was unlike anything else we'd ever had. And so, kind of to earn your way to that point, you're looking at it as like a sixth or seventh grader in that program. Like to earn your way to that point became such a point of pride that, like when you finally got that jersey or finally got accepted in that locker room, it was a big, big deal, and taught you a lot about kind of culture and what it means to be great and what it means to want to do something together collectively. And it was a fun ride.
I don't want to put you on a weird spot here, but any like specific stories from that first start or another high school football game? Can you take us inside one of those experiences?
Well, this will give you a little bit of an idea of kind of the importance behind it. So, my in between my junior and senior year, there was we had a rivalry. I mean, it was another small town in that area, Freona, Texas, and there was a long standing rivalry. Freona had been good, Millshoe was bad, and then all of a sudden Millshoe kind of came up, and we started beating them some. And so my junior year, we go to Freona, we win the game, and there was a lot of kind of friendly smack talking back and forth. And so we decided that summer that we would go paint the score on the water tower at Freona.
Go.
Yeah. Oh yeah, this is small town West Texas stuff right here, Trent. So we
Let's
do it.
go.
So we do it. Me and a couple buddies. We scale it at like 2 o'clock in the morning, which was definitely one of the dumber things I've ever done in my life. Add it to the list. And so we paint the water tower, and so they find out about it. We get in all kinds of trouble. And my mom told me, so we're getting ready to play on my senior year. And my mom was awesome. She cared about. I mean, she was very supportive in sports, but like never like expectations where you make your grades, you're a good person, you work hard. Never anything about winning. She wanted us to win, but that wasn't the deal to her. But she told me before that game, she was like, "You better win this freaking game!" Like getting that from my mom. So, and we did. Had one of my best games, and we won. And but yeah, it's a great story, man. It's like classic kind of just West Texas small town football, man. Everybody loved it. Everybody was into it. Rivalries were intense, and so yeah, that's a great story that kind of encompasses it all.
Do you remember the score of the game that you wrote on the water tower?
Yeah, I think 23-14. I'm pretty sure. That was kind of ingrained in the mind. Which it's common known fact, Trent, that when you paint a score on a water tower, you never forget it.
I hear you. No,
Yeah.
around here, 65 nothing means something as well. So I just wanted a chance to throw that in there. Now, you're a dual sport athlete also. So you ran track, correct?
Ran track, played basketball, did a little bit of everything. Played subbed in baseball some as a pinch runner.
Good.
But yeah, I loved competing, and so I tried to get involved as much as I could.
Well, I want to dig into that a little bit because every show, whether it's an NFL quarterback, Hall of Fame quarterback, big time head football coach, we've gotten in this dual sport athlete conversation. And you don't have to, have a total opinion on this, but can you see the value that you had as a dual sport athlete and now kind of contrasted where some of the specialization is going from your perspective, the lessons you learned from being a multi-sport athlete and maybe seeing some of that lacking these days?
I couldn't be more in favor of being a multi-sport athlete. You like I know what happens. People get focused on, well, I need to develop these skills. I need to go to this camp. I need to do this 7-on-7. I need to work with this quarterback trainer. And those are all good things. The other thing you've got to learn to do is you got to learn how to compete. And there's competing at a 7-on-7, which is good. There's competing at a an Elite 11 or some of these different quarterback competitions. Those are great. Like any competition is good, but that is not the same as chasing a real championship with a team. And I just think you just got to put yourself in those situations as much as you can and develop. And I can you this day and age, can you go play 5 or 6 sports? That's probably going to be difficult. But to say that you can't go play 2 or 3 sports and play them at a high level, and also be able to develop at maybe the one you see your maybe your brightest future at. You can certainly do both, and I think that there's just that. Don't My biggest advice to everybody out there, parents, kids, is don't lose sight of 2 things. One, you got to learn how to compete. You've got to learn how to deal with teams, and then also you only get that chance once. Like you're sitting here like me and you, and we'll look back. What would we give to go back and play another high school football game right now? What would we do to be able to go play a high school basketball game right now? Anything. And at some point, this is all going to be over, and you're not going to get to do it again. So if you have other sports that you love, find a way to compete in them. Life's too short.
I couldn't agree more. And we're just saying, guys, multi-sport athletes tend to be more coachable. They understand role definition a little bit better. You might be a superstar football player, but Mark Sanchez told this great story how he was the 6th guy on the basketball team. He learned how to be the tough guy. He learned how to use all 5 fouls. He learned how to be a role player. I mean, those things are invaluable. Time management. We're seeing our multi-sport athletes much better at the time. So please hear us, young people out there watching. It is such a benefit for you to be more diverse as an athlete, not get so focused on just one thing. Hey, Coach, talk us through, because there's a ton of kids that are watching this, and you're obviously a big hit with all the young people. Tell them about your recruiting journey. What was it like leaving Muleshoe and then obviously ending up at Texas Tech?
Yeah, I wasn't a big name recruit. Not at a school that traditionally, when a college coach came through there, it was news. It didn't happen very often, and so um, there were some things I could have done to make myself probably more recruited, that I didn't do, and some advantages that I didn't have. But I kind of came down. It was a decision for me of I could go to kind of the 1AA. I could go to the Ivy League, or I could walk on at a Division I school at the time, and so that was kind of the path for me. And I kind of had that 3 decisions, and I think that at the end of the day, there's kind of 2 parts of it. One was I said, if I'm going to do this, I want a chance to do it at a big school at the highest level. And I think the other thing was at that time, Mike Leach had just come into Texas Tech, and they were throwing the ball all over the place. And it was something that I was very interested in, both as a player and potentially as just a fan of the game, wanting to learn that. And so an opportunity presented itself there, and I took it. And so it wasn't a certainly like a fancy, high-profile recruitment by any stretch. I went on a couple of official visits to a few places, but ultimately decided on going to Texas Tech, and I've been kind of the wild journey ensued from there.
Well, we'll get into that journey, how from being a player at Texas Tech helped him become a coach at Texas Tech, and the rest. We'll be right back. New Starbucks Buy It energy drink. With caffeine naturally found in coffee fruit, it's energy that's good. It's a beverage that is crafted from caffeine naturally found in coffee fruit, as well as antioxidant vitamin C. It includes 3 delicious fruity flavors: mango guava, raspberry lime, pineapple passion fruit. A refreshing fruit-flavored boost of feel-good energy in a way only Starbucks can deliver. Starbucks Buy It energy drink packs energy and flavor that gives me that boost when gearing up to watch the big game, have a long day out on the field with the kids, or sit down and have a quality conversation for our audience. Starbucks Buy It energy drink is available online, at grocery stores, convenience stores, and gas stations nationwide. Well, back with Coach Lincoln Riley. And Coach, we touched on your playing career at Texas Tech, but it launched you to something way bigger. You end up leaving the gridiron as a player and jumping right in as a coach for Coach Leach at Texas Tech. I got to believe that was kind of an eye-opener coaching for him and just the way he runs the program.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I learned so much in that environment. I mean, probably Mike's two biggest strengths I've always thought are his ability and also his courage to think outside the box, not have to do things by the status quo. And I think a lot of people get held back by fear of feeling like they have to conform to doing something within these parameters. And with Mike, there are no parameters on anything. And um, but it was awesome. He gave me so much responsibility at a young age. We were cutting edge on what we were doing. We had a lot of fun. We won a lot of games. And then he was also, I think, one thing I don't know, it's always been discussed is he's always been a person that's hired extremely well. And again, I go back to it. He doesn't care about the status quo and all that. He just hires the people he thinks are the very best. And, you obviously look at his tree, guys that have coached underneath him that have gone on and had, good careers and gotten really good opportunities. And I think that's Mike deserves a lot of credit in that. So it was, as a young coach, it was very cool to be in. Now, when I left, I thought Texas Tech was a normal program. And then I got into what really was a normal program. I was like, man, I can't believe we did some of the stuff we did. But it was cool. It really was. It kind of opened up my mind to do things a different way. And like I said, we had a lot of fun along the way.
What was a day in the life like as a young GA student assistant? Like grind mode, or was it a little different? And you obviously had a ton of them since. Like contrast a little bit your early time as a coach to maybe what you're seeing now.
Yeah, it was unique because Mike keeps such weird office hours. And so when I was a student coach, it was tough because there was a GA job coming open. So I was trying to rush to get graduated. So I graduated in, I think, 3 years, and I was trying to fly through school to be graduated so I could potentially get that job. And so I did all my classes from, like 8 to 1 or 2, 8 in the morning to 1 or 2 in the afternoon. And that's, most of the time that's about when Mike comes into the office. And so, and then you're there until all hours of the night. And so, that's just his schedule. He's a night owl. And so now the hours and getting school and all that done were a challenge, but like I said, it was fun. It's, not too tense of an environment as you can imagine with him. But yeah, I learned a lot, gave me a ton of, he was great in the sense he gave me so much responsibility, probably more than I deserved as time went on. But it did put you in a position where you were going to learn and you were going to grow. And I certainly did a lot during those years.
Well, I need opportunity too, Coach. I mean, there's so many young coaches listening to this show too, and this is an opportunity. Do you have any advice for those young coaches? And I've seen it. I'll start this. I've seen such a change in the young, ambitious coach that they're so focused on where they're going that sometimes they forget about where they're at. And I've said this a million times, that I grew up on the back of a blocking sled, and my mentors were the grinders, are the ones that they'd get coffee and also do a game plan. What advice would you have for young coaches? I'm sure you give it to them, to the ones on your staff, but also ones you probably interview and don't hire.
Some of the best advice that I ever got, I think that's important is I think in any of these jobs, you've got to make yourself valuable enough that, I think two things. One, that they don't want to lose you. Like you got to make, if you're expendable, then your time there is probably not going to last very long. You've got to make it to where people be like, oh man, who's going to do this, or can they do this as well? If you're not there. And I think, and that also is going to keep you at the forefront of somebody's mind if a natural opportunity comes up within that organization or another to potentially move up or to get another job. And so I think just the quality of work, every day is your resume, every report that you do, everything that you do, whether it's, going and running an errand, from that all the way up to something very important within the football program. It's all your resume, and it's all about, when somebody assigns you or gives you a responsibility, do they expect excellence in return, and do you consistently deliver that? And then I think the second thing I would say is, for kind of the ambitious group is, like you said, stay present, do your job at an elite level, but you've got to think of and carry yourself kind of like you're at that next step. So like my thought process was, all right, if I'm a GA, all right, I want to carry myself like an assistant, not from a confidence standpoint or anything like that, but just I want them to see, I want people to know I can recruit. I want people to know that, like, when I get a chance to coach a guy, even if it's the fifth string walk on quarterback, he's going to be the most well coached guy on this football team. Like you take every part of that kind of person, you dress like that, you carry yourself, you act like that. You see, I think sometimes like GAs in that world still thinking themselves as like kind of like I'm still kind of like a student or a player, and then but kind of like coach, like kind of halfway in between. Like, no, that's nobody's going to hire anybody as a full time assistant that's halfway in between. You got to carry yourself and act and dress and conduct yourself like you're at that next step. So when those natural opportunities come up, you're the one that first comes to mind in terms of filling those. And so I tried to do that and got some good advice from people along the way to get that done.
Well, it obviously worked. 2007, you get the wide receiver job for Coach Leach at Texas Tech, and a couple pretty good players on the same team. Michael Crabtree, who I played with in San Francisco, and then Danny Amendola, and they lit it up that season. Just talk about how fun it was to have those two guys on your roster, getting to coach them day in and day out, and maybe something you learned from coaching those guys.
Yeah, no, I thought, man, this coach receiver is pretty dang easy. Coach those two guys, and
They're open
we're
all the time. I
I
don't have to do anything.
now here I was a 23-year-old receiver coach, and I think Crab, it's pretty amazing. This stat doesn't get thrown around much. Crab in his first 6 games as a freshman receiver had 17 touchdown catches. He caught 3 in every game but one, and then in that game he caught 2. So, I mean, it was just, yeah, it was obviously I had zero to do with that. It was fun to coach those guys, though. They were, how it is. You've been around it, Trent. I mean, great players push you as a coach, because there's a responsibility you have to continue their growth and development and make them even better than what they are. And the great ones want to be challenged, and they require. Yeah, everybody thinks that, well, you as the coach require the best out of your players, but guess what? The great players require the best out of you. And so, no, they were fun and challenging at the same time, because I didn't want to let those guys down. You wanted to be prepared. You wanted to do the things necessary to help them raise their games. And so now we had a great group there, a great receiver group. We were throwing it all over the yard. But yeah, two tremendous players. I mean, obviously, Mike's accomplishments in college were phenomenal. Injuries and, I think a few things limited his career a little bit in the NFL. Still a very productive career. Then obviously Danny just has had a fabulous NFL career. It's amazing to me that he's still been playing and what he's been able to accomplish. It's been fun to watch his journey.
Well, then you go to East Carolina, you become the offensive coordinator there, and you can talk as much you want about that. But what I'm most curious about was two things. One, did you feel like you're ready to be the coordinator? And then what was that first time like calling ball plays on a Saturday afternoon? Because that's a big jump.
Yeah, no, it is. I got to kind of strange how it happened, but when Texas Tech fired Mike, this was my last game at Tech in 2009. I got to call the bowl game against Michigan State, and that was first time I ever got to call plays in a game. It was a big game. It was a huge game for Tech, and Michigan State was really good at the time, and yeah, it was we won. We played pretty well on offense, and I remember after that thinking, like, I could do this. Like I loved calling plays. It was the most fun game I'd ever had in my life. I loved it, and I was craving the opportunity to get to do it on a full-time basis. And yeah, so I got the job at East Carolina with Ruffin, and there was a lot. That was the perfect setting to go into because Ruffin was great as a head coach. He gave me a lot of leeway. I made a lot of mistakes, but he let me make them. He let me learn. I learned that, I think everybody thinks offensive coordinator. First thing you think about is calling plays, and obviously that is part of it. But to me, the bigger job is managing people. Right? It's packaging. It's practice routines. It's who's playing. It's what personnel groupings you're playing in. It's putting together game plans. How do you study? Like it's the prep work and organization. The glorified part is the calling plays, and that's there's some that are important, some that aren't. But that it's how well do you do all that, and that's what I really was able to learn at East Carolina. And I was in a setting where I could learn that. Is there's so much more to it than what you see on game day when you're sitting in either the head coach or the coordinator's chair and you're at the front of the room. And I learned a lot through those years. I thought improved. I had to get pushed out of my comfort zone as a coach, and I felt like that really got me ready to be able to ultimately go do it at a bigger program like Oklahoma.
Well, you just said right there, we're definitely going to talk about the 2 years under Coach Stoops at Oklahoma, but that comfort zone thing, I mean, for coaches to be taken from a comfortable spot to an uncomfortable spot with a lot of pressure on them, I think is the cauldron of learning how to coach football at the highest level. And obviously, work for you, go to Oklahoma, you coach for legendary Coach Stoops. What were those 2 years like? Was it what you experienced at East Carolina amplified, or was it a whole new world for you?
Yeah, it was amplified, certainly with the quality of players. And we had some really good ones at ECU, but obviously the talent level is different. The opportunities to win and win big were different. Stage was different. But I was certainly more prepared. The years at East Carolina prepared me for it. And then getting to work for Bob was phenomenal because you got to see kind of his impact and what he did at a high level in terms of running that organization and helping me grow as a coach and pushing me to get better. And so it was a great 2 years. I mean, we were successful. We won a bunch of games, kind of got, they'd had a couple of now relative down years, weren't many down years with Coach, but we were able to really get the thing back running at a high level. And like I said, he was great. He gave me a lot of leeway as well, but also pushed me to become better. And you could see, it really, I thought, showed just his experience, how many situations he had been in as a head coach, kind of knowing what to handle, kind of how he managed people, understood the pulse of the team, the pulse of the staff. No, and he was very open to talking about that, visiting about that, which was helpful for me because I was just trying to take in as much as I possibly could.
Do you still, now as a longtime head coach, do you see a lot of Coach Stoops in your coaching style? Do you see partly Stoops, partly Ruffin, partly Leach? Like if somebody challenged you, say, okay, break it up into thirds, where would you put your experience from Coach Stoops and how you see it in yourself now as a head coach?
Yeah, definitely a lot of things I learned from him that I have certainly carried on. Again, his I think his structure and his consistency as a head coach, I think was very important. Pushed the staff, but also treated people well, which is something I've always tried to do. And I would say all the guys I worked for were good in that manner. Ruffin had such a unique bond with his players as much as any coach I've ever been with. He understood his players, and his ability to connect and get the best out of them was, I thought, as good as anybody. And I've tried to, that's certainly something I've tried to do a good job of, and I learned a lot from him on. Mike, certainly I would go back to the, learning outside the box, thinking outside the box, making sure you hire the right people around you. And so, yeah, I mean, they all three certainly had strengths. They all three ran their programs in really drastically different ways. But yeah, definitely there's I can look at what we do now and see their fingerprints all over it.
That's so cool. When we come back, we'll talk about how Coach Riley was promoted within Oklahoma, launched one of the great coaching careers we've seen to this date. We'll be right back. Here at Beyond the X's and O's, we don't shy away from real life conversations. And today we're talking about one of the most taboo topics, finances. U.S. Bank offers a wide range of credit cards for a wide variety of financial needs. And one of its most useful cards is the U.S. Bank Visa Platinum Card, With a low introductory APR for 24 billing cycles, this card is a tool for getting ahead. The US Bank Visa Platinum Card is a savvy financial move for large purchases, unexpected expenses, and balance transfers. And with the ability to customize your payment date, this card gives you control over your financial future. Apply now at usbank.com/platinum. With the US Bank Visa Platinum Card, you can be worry-free for the next 2 years. To see if you qualify for the best introductory APR out there, visit usbank.com/platinum. Limited time offer. The creditor and issuer of this card is US Bank National Association, pursuant to a license from Visa USA Inc. Some restrictions may apply. Back with Coach Lincoln Riley. So use this opportunity under Coach Stoops. You get hired within and launches your great head coaching career to this point. 55-10 as a college football coach. That's impressive. 3 college football playoff appearances. But what I find fascinating is you have coached 2 Heisman Trophy winners, Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray. What's it meant to be a coach of 2 Heisman Trophy winners and those journeys you went on with them?
Yeah, they were great journeys, and I mean, the Heisman, winning the Heismans and being able to be a part of that experience with those guys was very, very cool. I mean, that's obviously a historic award, and it's great experiences. But I think I remember most is, the time kind of behind the scenes with those guys, especially the years that we had them in the meeting room together. What a great meeting room that was, and we challenged each other, pushed each other. That's probably the most competitive meeting room that I've ever had with those 2 guys in there, and I think it made us all better. And so, got great relationships with those guys to this day. I mean, they're like family to me. I mean, they're like kind of older children almost to me. So I've to see those guys kind of go from where they were. Both were guys that people had knocks on. Neither were big guys. To see them, both were guys that people probably thought never have a chance to play in the NFL, and to see them not only both win the Heisman but both go number 1 overall, to be able to have Kyler's kind of in the middle of his time right now at Arizona. Baker's obviously getting ready for the next step, and with probably the biggest chip on his shoulder that anybody's ever seen, and so it's been fun to watch their journeys and have been kind of a small part of it there in the beginning.
When you were recruiting them, what were the distinguishing traits that you knew you had something? It might be different for one, might be the same one for each one. But I knew them both in high school too, and just curious what you saw that you knew you could help mold and shape and get their best out of them.
Yeah, they're very different situations. Baker just transferred into to OU right before I got there, and so it was a pretty heavy quarterback competition when I got there. We had 4 guys on scholarship, which you never have now, and they ended up winning the job. And I think his feel as a playmaker, his ability to process offense quickly was extremely impressive. I mean, his recall. And again, just ability to process what you were coaching, we really connected quickly there. And then, I mean, everybody sees. I mean, he's just such a competitor. He's such a tough player, and I think your football teams always take on the mentality and personality of your quarterback. And he's just an elite competitor. The guy is, and that showed from the very, very beginning. Kyler was much different because we did recruit him a little bit. He transferred in from Texas A&M, and at that time we'd had some success already with Baker. We had a couple other quarterbacks that wanted to transfer to OU at that time, but I just Kyler had a pretty I would say average to even below average true freshman season at Texas A&M. Results weren't great, but when we watched him, I thought his ability was so unique that I just felt like him and this offense and what we could do could be a crazy good combination. And he was awesome. He was a great worker. He had to be patient behind Baker. He was there for 2 years and wasn't the starter, which is a great lesson again to all the young guys out there. Hang in there. he sits for 2 years, and then he's the number 9 overall pick at the baseball draft and wins the Heisman's the number 1 NFL draft. And 2 years before he's sitting, and so that's his patience and work ethic certainly was rewarded because when his time came, he was absolutely ready.
Yeah, it's been so fun not just to watch their progression, but study your offenses under the two of them. I think you taught a lot of young coaches, offensive coaches, a lot about offensive football and how to use the traits of each one differently. So it's been fun to watch that. Now, off-season kind of bombshell. Here you are. You're at USC. You come get hired by them. Immediately put in a top 10 recruiting class. All this stuff has been phenomenal to watch from a distance. But what's it been like with your feet on the ground so far at USC?
Trent, has been awesome. I mean, it really has. I just everything about it. I mean, Southern California sells itself. It's an amazing place to live and work. Uh, and then you're walking in here to a program that's been very, I think, humbled, um, and is ready to be back where in my opinion, USC football belongs, and putting all the things up front from a resource standpoint, personnel standpoint, alignment standpoint to get that done. And so there's a great hunger here around this university, and I think around the state of California for USC to be back. And so it's been great. The reception's been awesome. I think it's such a unique opportunity and at this time at the school. So yeah, it's 6 months so far. It feels it's kind of crazy to think that the time's gone by that quick. But we've really enjoyed it so far. It's been a fun new challenge for I think for all of us that came, and excited to see what we can do here.
And as you're having your national recruiting school, so as kids come through there, what's it mean to be a Trojan?
I think it means a lot. I think this university is so well positioned and so maybe uniquely positioned within our sport. You're talking about filling a uh, kind of a unique spot in college football where you've got elite academics. I mean, this is one of the top institutions in the country. Um, you've got obviously the elite history of football here, and then you've got the big market of LA and all the opportunities that provides on and off the field, for our guys that just make it. I think it's a great opportunity, but also a big responsibility for all of us, because you think about it, like you step back, like not many people get chances to go to school at a university of this quality, earn a degree from a place like this that can by itself change your life. Um, not many people get to play in one of the greatest college football programs of all time. Not many people get to wake up every day in paradise. You come here, you get to do all three, and that's again, it's a great opportunity, but it's also a really, really cool responsibility that, like, I think if you, it's kind of like right there. Too much was it right? If you've been given a lot, you also take on a
Yeah,
lot of the
too much is
responsibility and ownership of it, and so I think I want that to be important to every person in this program that we're surrounded by. Is make sure you appreciate what you have. Make sure you take advantage of all these opportunities because they'll change your life, your family's family's life if you do this thing right.
That's awesome. Well, your journey's been incredible. Thanks for sharing it with us. We love to end each show your chance to kind of give a shout out to your wife, Caitlin. And then interesting, I'm a daughter daddy too. I have three, and you're a daughter daddy. You have two. About their impact on this journey for you.
Yeah, no, they're everything. I mean, being able to kind of go on this journey would be not obviously not even close to the same without them, and that has maybe been the best part of it is being able to share it, with my wife, who's been as supportive and is always up for kind of any journey, any kind of exciting twists that these kind of jobs can take on. All the long hours, all the time away. She's certainly the kind of the rock of our household without a doubt. Yeah, my two girls certainly. I get some balance. I get all the testosterone I need up here at work. So we definitely balance that out at home. I get home and it's dresses and it's this and it's that, and but No, they're amazing, and yeah, to be able to kind of bring them out here to Southern California to live in a new place, experience new things specifically for them was a big part of this. So yeah, I can't imagine doing it with anybody else.
Well, thanks so much for your time, Coach. Good luck this season. I appreciate you hanging out with us a little bit and sharing some insight with all the coaches and young players listening. Thank you.
Absolutely, that was fun. Appreciate you having me, Trent.
That concludes this episode of Beyond the X's and O's. Thanks to our sponsor, Buy an Energy Drink. Well, thanks again to Coach Riley for his time, and we'll see you next time on Beyond the X's and O's.